This question here is a order of operations type question, although there's only one operation. So makes it a little bit not tricky, but tricky at the same time. So remember order of operation, we can think PEMDAS, or we can think GEMDAS, G for grouping symbols instead of the P there. There's a BODMAS and a BEDMAS, all kinds of different acronyms there. This one is all division. So that's all we're doing here. And remember, with a multiply divide step, it's always left to right. So don't start switching this around and seeing this and calling that a 3. That is not the first step. We got to go left to right. And I'll also show you another way of looking at division to make it so it's less difficult to make these mistakes. Okay, so here we go. So we're doing left to right. Okay, so the first one we're going to change is right here. There we go. Now that divide by 6 and the times 2, that's just going to stay. That's just going to stay there. So the only thing we're changing, 36 divided by 12. So 36 divided by 12, here we go. So that's going to make 3. Okay, now we keep on rolling. So now we have 3 divided by 6. So that's the only part that we're going to change there. 3 divided by 6. Well, that one's going to be tricky, but let's remember, the divide by 2 will stay. So we can write that down. So that way we don't get confused. Okay, so now we're changing 3 divided by 6. Well, we can think of this. Well, you can either go 3 divided by 6. Well, that's half. Because 3 is half of 6, so it's 1/2. Okay, or you can think fraction if you want. So with any of these, and I'll show you on this next step here, but like this 3 divided by 6, you can think 3 over 6. Okay, and this is with division, kind of the hack that you can kind of work around and help your brain figure out what's actually going on. So even this 36 divided by 12, okay, check it out. Here we go. 36 divided by 12. We can think of that fraction up here, this fraction here, we can think of as actual division because 12 does divide into 36. Okay, 3 times. Now this one here, this 3/6, 6 doesn't divide evenly into 3, so we think reduce instead. So if it divides in evenly, think divide. If it doesn't divide in evenly, think reduce. And that's kind of the 2 different ways when we have our fractions, what we need to be like thinking of. Now, what am I supposed to do with this? Oh, well, bottom number goes into the top number, denominator divides the numerator, do division. If that's not the case, then we think, okay, now I got to reduce it. Okay, so that's a way of thinking about this. Now, the other thing that we can think about here too is we got 1/2 divided by 2. Okay, so here we go. 1/2 divided by 2. Now, remember with dividing fractions, okay, so we can think of this 2 as 2 over 1. When we divide fractions, we multiply by reciprocal. We don't actually divide fractions. We do keep, change, flip, or keep, switch, flip. There's another way of thinking about it. Hold up. Okay, so here we go. So that's going to be a times. Now we flip the 2 and the 1 and make it 1 over 2. Now we can go ahead and do the multiply of fractions now. Okay, so that's going to be 1 times 1 over 2 times 2. And there's our answer there, 1 over 4. But there's a little bit more that we could think of with this 1/2 divided by 2 right there. So remember what division means. It means you're dividing something up into equal groups. So if I have 1/2 of something, okay, so that's, you know, kind of the pizza or the circle broken up into a half. So there's the 1/2 there. And we're going to divide it by 2, which means we want 2 equal groups. We'll take it and divide it by 2. It's right there. Okay, now if we wanted the whole thing there, now my circle is broken up into fourths, and I'm only going to take 1 of those. So there's another way of seeing this 1/2 divided by 2. Some people just have it memorized, because if you want to go decimals, it actually makes a little bit more sense, only because 1/2 of $1 is 50 cents. So if we're thinking 50 cents, so instead of thinking of this as just some random fraction, if you can think of it as something concrete, well, that's easier to work with. So now we're thinking 50 cents. And what I want to do is take that 50 cents and divide it by 2. Because remember, we were doing half divided by 2. Well, if I have 50 cents, I'm going to divide it into 2 equal chunks. Well, that's 2 quarters. Quarter is this. That's a quarter. Now, in money, that would be 0.25. Okay? So there's different ways, depending on what the numbers are, you can actually relate them back to something concrete that makes more sense to your brain, so that when you're done with these operations, especially when they start looking froggy, that it's all like, oh, actually, 1/2 divided by 2 is 50 cents divided by 2. That makes a quarter, or 1/4. So you can kind of change the way some of these values look by changing how we write them, okay? Whether it's a fraction or a decimal, even percents. I mean, if this was a percent, it'd be 50%. Divided by 2 is 25%, okay? So just by changing the way it looks, okay? I think most people, they're going to go the 1/2 right up here, 1/2 divided by 2, and they're going to think that's going to be 1/2 times 1/2. That's kind of the most direct way of doing it. So give that a try and subscribe for more.